The outdoor fairground was alive with laughter, the scent of fried food in the air, and the distant hum of carnival rides. People wandered between booths, children clutched oversized stuffed animals, and the smell of grilled meat wafted from food stands. At the center of it all, under bright floodlights, was Logan the Titan Kane, a retired professional wrestler turned showman, putting on a spectacle for a gathered crowd. At nearly 6.5 feet tall, his muscular frame was wrapped in a skin-tight t-shirt that barely contained his bulk. He was a living statue of arrogance, his voice booming as he flexed for the spectators. "All right, folks, who's brave enough to step into my ring?" Logan shouted, pointing toward the makeshift wrestling mat set up on the pavement. "Anyone? Come on, think you can take me down?" The crowd cheered, whistled, and laughed, but no one stepped forward. "Typical," Logan scoffed, shaking his head. "All talk, no action. That's what happens when people spend their lives hiding behind their screens, afraid to get their hands dirty." People chuckled nervously. The idea of facing Logan Kane in a fight was ridiculous. The man was a beast, and it was clear he was only looking for someone he could humiliate for entertainment. Then Logan's eyes settled on an older man standing quietly at the edge of the crowd. The man was lean, strong, but not bulky, dressed in a weathered military jacket and faded jeans. His hands rested at his sides, his face expressionless. His gray-flecked beard and worn boots told a story of experience, of a life that had seen more than it cared to share. Logan's lips curled into a smirk. "You, Grandpa?" he said, pointing directly at the veteran. "You look like you've seen some action. What do you say? Want to show these people how a real man fights?" The crowd laughed. The veteran simply stared at Logan, his face giving nothing away. "Come on," Logan taunted, rolling his shoulders. "What's wrong? Too slow? Too fragile? Or are you one of those guys who just tells war stories at bars but never actually did anything?" A few people in the crowd fell silent. The veteran exhaled through his nose, shifting his weight slightly. His calmness was unsettling, but Logan was too caught up in his own arrogance to notice. "Not interested," the veteran said finally. His voice was low and steady. Logan laughed loudly, shaking his head. "Not interested? Yeah, that's what I thought." He turned back to the crowd. "See, folks? Tough guy act only works until you call him out." More laughter, mockery. Then, Logan turned back to the veteran with one final jab. "Guess you're not as tough as they say." The veteran's expression changed. Not anger, not offense, something else. He stepped forward. A ripple moved through the crowd as they instinctively took a step back, sensing a shift in the air. The veteran's voice was even, calm. "You don't know what a real fight is." Logan's grin faltered just slightly. The veteran pulled off his jacket, folding it neatly and handing it to a bystander without a word. He then stepped onto the wrestling mat. The crowd went dead silent. Logan's confidence returned instantly. He cracked his knuckles, rolled his neck, and flexed his arms, towering over the veteran. "Your funeral, old man," Logan sneered. The referee, a fairground employee who had no idea what he was about to witness, raised his hand. "All right, guys, let's keep it clean. First to pin wins." The veteran didn't respond. He just waited. The ref dropped his hand. Logan moved first. Like a viper striking, Logan lunged forward, using all his strength to scoop the veteran off his feet. The crowd gasped as Logan lifted the veteran high into the air. And then, with a thunderous crash, Logan slammed him down onto the pavement. The impact was bone-jarring. The crowd winced, some letting out shocked cries. For a moment, the veteran didn't move. Logan stepped back, raising his arms in victory, basking in the moment. "And that's how it's done, people! That's what happens when you step into the ring with the Titan." The crowd started clapping hesitantly, unsure if they had just watched something incredible or terrible. Then, the veteran moved, slowly, deliberately. A chill ran through the crowd. He pushed himself up, dusting off his jeans like nothing had happened. Logan's cocky grin vanished. The veteran rolled his shoulders, exhaling calmly. He tilted his head slightly, as if just now deciding to take this seriously. Then, he looked at Logan and said 2 words. "My turn." Logan barely had time to react. The veteran moved fast, faster than anyone expected. One moment, he was standing still. The next, he was closing the gap between them in a flash. Logan swung, a massive looping punch meant to put the veteran down for good. But the veteran wasn't there. He had sidestepped effortlessly, letting Logan's fist cut through nothing but air. And that's when everything changed. With surgical precision, the veteran struck. His open palm collided with Logan's chest in a single, brutal impact. Not a punch, not a slap, but something in between. Logan stumbled back, his face twisted in shock and confusion rather than pain. The crowd, which had been cheering only moments ago, was now silent. Logan, stunned, tried again, launching another punch. This time, the veteran didn't even move. He caught Logan's wrist in midair. The moment their skin made contact, Logan's entire posture changed. His smirk disappeared. His breathing hitched. And then, the veteran twisted. A sharp crack echoed in the air as Logan's wrist was wrenched at an unnatural angle. He screamed, dropping to one knee, clutching his arm as his massive frame buckled under the unbearable pain. The crowd gasped, some covering their mouths in horror. The veteran didn't gloat, didn't taunt, didn't revel in the moment. He just stared down at Logan, his expression unreadable. "You're strong," the veteran said, his voice calm as if they were discussing the weather. "But you don't know how to fight." Logan panted, trying to scramble back to his feet, his pride shattered. His good hand clawed at the pavement, desperately trying to regain his footing. I wasn't ready." The veteran tilted his head slightly, watching him. "You hit me first." Logan's face burned with humiliation. Somewhere in the crowd, someone laughed. A sharp, involuntary chuckle from a man who never expected to see Logan Kane lose. It was all Logan needed, fueled by sheer rage and humiliation. Logan lunged again, trying to tackle the veteran to the ground. Bad move. The veteran didn't step aside this time. He let Logan come, absorbing the charge, then redirecting the momentum with shocking ease. In a blur, Logan's feet left the ground. The entire crowd gasped as Logan soared through the air, flipping over the veteran's shoulder before slamming into the pavement on his back. A thick, painful wheeze escaped Logan's lips. The wind had been ripped from his lungs, and for the first time in his career, he couldn't get up. Silence. The crowd, once full of cheers and jeers, stood frozen. The veteran stepped back, exhaling, running a hand down his face like he was done here. The fairground lights hummed, casting long shadows as Logan lay sprawled on the pavement, staring at the sky, completely motionless. Then the veteran spoke one last time. "You should pick your fights better," he murmured. "Some people don't fight for sport." He grabbed his jacket, nodding once to the stunned onlookers. Then, without another word, he walked away. The crowd parted for him like a wave. Somewhere in the distance, the carnival music played on, eerily cheerful, a sharp contrast to the broken man left behind. Logan never looked up, because for the first time in his life, he lost. And everyone saw it. There was a long, unbearable silence. The carnival lights flickered overhead, their buzzing hum filling the space where Logan Kane's confidence once stood. He was still lying on the pavement, his massive chest rising and falling in ragged, shallow breaths. His face was twisted, not in pain, but in disbelief. The crowd remained frozen, some still clutching their phones, unsure whether to cheer or feel sorry for the man who had never lost before. The veteran was already walking away, not victorious, not gloating, just done. And that's when Logan did the worst thing he could have done. He got back up. Not gracefully, not with his usual towering presence, but sluggishly, his body betraying him as he used the side of the ring to pull himself upright. His wrist was still hanging limply at his side, his breath ragged, but his eyes burned with something dangerous. The veteran heard the shuffle of movement behind him, but didn't turn around. Logan spat blood onto the pavement. "You don't get to just walk away." His voice was hoarse, strained with humiliation and barely restrained rage. "You don't get to do that to me and just walk away." The veteran finally turned, his gaze steady, emotionless. He said nothing. Logan took one unsteady step forward, then another. "I've fought men twice your size," he snarled. "I've put them in the ground. You think you're tough?" He wiped his mouth, his own blood smearing across his chin like war paint. "You just caught me off guard, old man. You're nothing. I'll break every bone in your body." He rushed forward, every ounce of his fury, his bruised ego, his pride, all funneled into one last desperate attack. And that's when the veteran moved for real. Lightning fast. The impact was brutal. The veteran sidestepped, twisted, and struck in a single fluid motion. A precise heel to Logan's sternum, a sharp elbow to the base of his skull, and finally, a ruthless sweep to his legs. The entire crowd gasped as Logan's body lifted off the ground, then slammed back down with an earth-shaking crash. This time, he didn't move. The veteran knelt beside him, his face calm. Not cruel, not angry, just disappointed. "I told you to pick your fights better," he murmured. Logan tried to say something, a slurred, broken breath of defiance, but nothing came out. The veteran didn't wait for a response. He stood, adjusted his jacket, and walked away into the night, leaving Logan in a heap of broken pride and aching bones. The crowd stayed silent. No one rushed to help Logan. No one cheered. They had all just witnessed something they'd never forget. A man built like a champion had been destroyed by someone who didn't even want to fight. And somehow, that made it so much worse. The carnival lights buzzed, the distant sounds of laughter and music filling the air. And in the center of it all, Logan Kane lay there, staring at the sky as the reality of his first true defeat finally sank in. The end.